Hey, hello. I still don't know how to start this stream, so we'll see. We'll see what it evolves into. But hi, hello. Um, yeah, we're back to the donut again. Um, I think I want to finish it today. I think there are not that many left, uh, that many videos left. And then I would like to start with something relatively like basic. And then I think, yeah, we can just kind of learn from there. Um, I realized that I overlooked something massive, which was like, or not overlooked, I think I just kind of realized that there was something that I did not think about or that I didn't consider yet, which is like, I'm gonna have to make like clothes and stuff, right? Um, and then the clothes shouldn't be on the characters in Blender. I should make the clothes separately. I'm not entirely sure. Like I know obviously that the clothes will just be like this, like the donut, But I don't know how it works with like the clothes sitting on top of something. For example, a body or a different body. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I guess we'll figure it out. Um, yeah, and that should go into uh, Unreal because I want to have like maybe one or two different sets of clothes, or I don't know yet. I think I want to keep it relatively simple, at least for the start, where each character, one of the 13 characters, will have their own uh like clothes. So it'll be like on them and you can't change it. And I don't want things like armor and like all of these things. I don't want that in the game. Maybe we'll have something else that's like, for example, a shield or something that you'll pick up if you go into like a store. If you were to think about the real life, it's not like you're gonna just find armor lying around or like you'll make things, right? You'll like improvise certain things. So maybe we'll think about what you would get like a yeah, we'll figure it out. And then we'll equip that in game or make that equipable. So yeah, I think let's get past the donut. Um, I remembered a lot of things. I learned some cool things again from the last few videos. And I think the donut is looking pretty decent. It also went a lot faster than I remembered. Um, the first time I did it, I was pausing a lot and I couldn't really remember how to do certain things. But I feel like, for example, the hotkeys and things, it feels like I remembered, or I did remember them, and I remembered what to do next. And like, yeah, so I feel like that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, so I think without further ado, let's start the tutorial and
The time has finally
let's finish the donuts.
come to decorate our delicious looking donut with some sprinkles. So, the feature we need for that is called geometry nodes, and you can access it by going to the top of your screen. If you don't see it, just middle mouse drag across, and you'll see the tab geometry nodes. Ooh. So, it's adjusted your screen layout. Don't get disorientated. Your donut is still there. This screen on the left here, it's called the spreadsheet. Never needed it. Touch on wood, never will. So we can just close that, right click, join areas, and then just collapse it into it. Okay, so with your icing selected, click the new button. So welcome to the world of geometry nodes. So geometry nodes is actually a modifier. So when we hit new there, we've added in a modifier called geometry nodes. And what the modifier is doing is whatever we want it to. Okay, so what this section down here is, this is a node-based system, and it looks familiar, right? You got boxes with little lines, and it's the exact same type of system that was used in our materials, right? But it's a completely different system. Okay, so the same nodes will not be referenced between the completely different systems. So the way this works is, our mesh that we've got here of our icing is what is being represented on the left-hand side with your input. It's then taking that mesh and it's feeding it all the way to the right, and it's going to spit out whatever is in your group output. So currently, nothing has changed because there's nothing between those points. But if I was, for example, don't follow me, but just as an example, if I was to add a set position node, drop this in here, and then change the position of the icing along the Z axis, you can see it's raised it. Okay, now the mesh, if I go into edit mode, is still there. The mesh has not changed. So we're not actually moving the object. This is just happening after the fact via a modifier. Okay, now obviously this would be a rather pointless use for geometry nodes to move it, because you could just move it. But as an example, let's say, I don't know, you had a scene where lots of objects, some of them are raised, some of them are not, and you wanted to quickly change them. What you could do with geometry nodes, in this case, you could actually expose this offset value by dragging it to the left over here. And when you do that, you can see it's now appeared over here in our modifier stack. What that means is, whenever I'm in another part of Blender, let's say I'm like building stuff, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to quickly, change the height of that icing, I've got it there whenever I need to. So essentially, this system enables you to build up your own tool that does something that you want it to do in a really flexible way. So it's really powerful. And before geometry nodes, I mean, Blender was kind of limited in what you can do, but I'll throw some examples here. But in the last 2 years since it's been in Blender, people have done some wild stuff with it. And most of this stuff really was just not possible in Blender before without doing custom scripting. So it's really opened up the doors. So it is a very different system, like it's a different way of working than just hands-on in 3D, but it's a really flexible, really valuable system. So any time spent learning geometry nodes, I think, is time well spent. So we want to do sprinkles, and to do that we need to first of all scatter some points onto our mesh. So to do that, hit Shift A for add, and then we're looking for point, distribute points on faces. Okay. And then it's just it's just going to put you in a placement state.
I know I can search it, but I want to see where. Okay, mesh. So mesh. No, point.
And then we're looking for point, distribute points on faces. Okay. And then it's just it's just going to put you in a placement state. And if you just mouse over that line there till it lights up, if you click, it's going to automatically connect it for you. And now you can see we've got points on our icing and a density value. Great. But you might notice the icing has actually disappeared. Ooh. Now the reason for that is we've told it, okay, take that icing object and convert it into points, and then just give us the points back. Okay, so what we need to do is say, yes, we want the points, but we also want the original mesh. So we can do that by adding in a node that you use all the time, which is Shift A, Geometry, Join Geometry. So you'll find this node in probably any geometry nodes tutorial. Very versatile. So drop it in here after the points, and you'll notice this input here is a different shape. So normally inputs are circles or triangles or whatnot. This one is a long and elongated shape to signify that it can accept multiple inputs. So unlike these where you can only accept one, this can accept many. So what we need to do is take the output of our original mesh and then feed it over to here. And now we have both the original mesh and we have our points, and they're being combined together and then put into our output. Okay, very cool, awesome. All right, so if we were to give this a render right now, you would actually see nothing because these points don't physically exist. They just exist in the 3D space. If we want them to show up in the render, we have to tell it, what do you want to render them as? So for that, we need to add an object to be our sprinkle. So your sprinkle could be whatever you want. We're actually going to make 2 different types of sprinkles in this donut series. So we're going to start though with a very simple one, just a round ball. So just like you would add another object normally, Shift A, and then go Mesh, and then go UV Sphere. Now, this sphere is going to be referenced for every single sprinkle. Okay, so we want to go as low res as we can get away with. So I'm going to go with is going to be, and then go Mesh, just like you would add another object normally, Shift A, and
then okay. So here we want to add it, right?
then go Mesh, and then go UV Sphere. Now, this sphere is going to be referenced for every single sprinkle. Okay, so we want to go as low res as we can get away with. So I'm going to go with 12 segments and then 8 rings.
Was
if you're
F9?
On a really
hold on, I just want to kind of recap. So we do UV sphere. So here we can change these, but let's say we moved it, right? And we want to get that back. We can't because we moved it already. But here we should be able to let's see if yeah, it is F9. Okay.
Slow computer and you think this is really going to suffer later on, you could go even lower, but I don't want to go too low because otherwise we're going to see that jagged edge because it's a rounded form. So I don't want to go too much lower than that. But I do want to adjust the scale because obviously this needs to be a tiny little sprinkle. So let's go 0.01. Okay.
So he's doing 12, 8. Let's move it up. Is it 0.01? Okay, we'll just start over. So UV sphere. Yeah, 0.01. Okay.
Awesome. All right, now with our icing selected again, you'll notice, by the way, that if you click another object, you don't see your nose because it's only going to show you the
0.01, 12, 8. Okay, so this, let's call this the sprinkle. Okay, so with this selected, I guess
active objects geometry
we're going to
nodes.
add it here.
So if you want the nodes to just be there no matter what, if you click the pin button there, that means no matter what is selected, it's only going to be showing you this object's, the one that we pinned, geometry nodes. Okay. All right. So to reference, we need to reference that little sphere that we've just created in our geometry node system. And you can do it very easily just by dragging down from your outliner up here, just dragging it down into your geometry nodes and dropping it. Okay. So now let's just create some room here. Make a little bit of space. Okay. And what I need to do is add another node to reference this object. And the node is Shift A, instances on points, the top one. Okay. And then I want to drop it in here between distribute points on faces and my join geometry. So drop it in right there till it lights up. Now the points have disappeared because we're now saying replace those points with whatever is in that instance input. So I'm going to take my geometry from my object info and drag it into the instance. And look at that. We have got our spheres appearing all over it. And if I increase the density, we've got sprinkles. And if I do a render, it will actually display. Doesn't look very good, hey, but it does work, which is the main thing right now. Okay, so first things first, you'll notice that as we increase the density, first problem is that they're crowding each other. They are straight up overlapping each other with no respect for its fellow sprinkle, right? Because it's just a random distribution. So we can change that by going here in our distribute points on faces, change it from random distribution to Poisson disk distribution. Poisson, what a name. Um, so it's changed, but that's just because it's changed your density max, so just increase it again. With this Poisson disk distribution, you get this extra value here, distance min. So now if we can set a low value, we can start to delete. It's almost like each one of those points now is going to have a little radius around it. And if it detects a point within that radius, it's going to delete it. So we just need to increase it slowly, very, very slowly, until we can't see them intersecting anymore. To about there, honestly. If you go too high, like if you really wanted to make sure they weren't touching, you go really high, but it starts to look like too evenly spaced, you know? Like, yeah, it's not actually registering the other objects. It's like it's just doing this little radius thing, which just happens to be perfect for a ball-shaped object, but it's not like an advanced, like it's going to try to fill in all the gaps for you. So yeah, you just kind of, I usually set it to like a little bit of clipping is okay, but I don't want there to be too much. But let's go, yeah, something, I don't know, something like that. We'll actually adjust this later on. I'm just doing it just for this point. All right, a much bigger problem, if I hit Control Tab to go full screen here, if I look at my mesh, I've got sprinkles everywhere. And in fact, I've actually got sprinkles underneath the icing. And that's not good, because it's actually going to put that in the render. Even though you won't see it, your computer is going to use resources to render little individual balls underneath the icing, which is not what we want, obviously. So, going back here, what we need to do to fix this.
So to isolate, I think the /, yeah, so then we can see underneath. And then is it / again? Yeah, okay.
This is we need to do weight painting, okay? It's not texture painting, it's a special thing called weight painting. So with your icing selected, if you go from your object mode, you'll see one there called weight paint. Now, your mesh will become blue, and weight paint is actually referenced in multiple parts of Blender. Like if you're doing rigging and animation, you would use weight painting a lot during the rigging step to assign values to certain bones. Essentially what it's doing is it's allowing you to paint a value between 0 and 1 onto any part of the mesh, and then reference that however you want. So we can then reference that weight paint mask in our geometry nodes and use this almost as, well, exactly as a mask for our sprinkles. So if we just do some paint right here on it, you'll see that we have some colors, right? Now these colors aren't going to appear in the render. It's just for you to visualize those values. The blue value means a value of 0, and the red value is a 0 of 1. I believe actually in maybe not the next version of Blender, but maybe the version, I don't know, but they're planning to change the colors of this. So depending on the value, on how late watching this you are, your colors might be different here, but it should be the same. Essentially, you should have a brush of 1, and you should be able to paint from 0, which would give a blue value in this case, to a value of 1. So whatever is 1, whatever is red, is where our sprinkles will go. But you'll notice that this is not having any effect, okay? So we need to reference it. Now, that weight paint that we just did is actually, if we go to our data tab here, it's actually a vertex group, okay? So that's where that paint went. So you could actually create multiple weight paint types just by like creating them here. But we've just created one, and it's added one here for us. So we can give it a name by double clicking it, and let's call it sprinkle mask, okay? In fact, is it a mask? It's more of a density, sprinkle density, I guess, because it's not a masking out. Anyway, all right, sprinkle density. Okay, and where I want to reference this in my geometry node stack is in the distribute points on faces. There is one value here called density factor, which we got when we used the Poisson disk thing. And this is just a value of 0 to 1. Very convenient. So if I drag out from here and then release, I can add in a new node and it'll just automatically connect it. And the node that you're looking for is called the named attribute. Don't feel bad if you're like, well, how would I know that it's called the named attribute? Because it's called vertex groups over here. You think like, okay, I'm going to type in vertex script, but it's an attribute, but it's one of many attributes, and geometry nodes can do many things. So it's just called the named attribute. So, anyways, all right. So underneath name, we're just going to click that box, and you'll get a pop up or pop down, and you're looking for sprinkle density, and there it is. Haha. So now going back into weight paint mode, we can act like an artist and put the sprinkles wherever we want. Sprinkles on our donut, which is really cool. So sprinkles are typically, they're like on a plate, and then the wet donut with icing on it is just like dabbed onto it. So you get like a heavy amount of sprinkles right on the top like that, and then less around the sides. And then I usually do like a few like dabs like this, just for some variance. And then also if you hold down Control, that will do so the weight that's being painted is 1, but if I hold down Control, it's going to do a negative value. And I can adjust my strength there as well, and I can just do some negative paints across it, maybe a couple here as well. And I'm trying to deliberately make it look choppy, because I find that if you make it look too like uniform, then it just looks very boring and artificial. Because the real world would have more sprinkles collecting in certain areas than others, right? Maybe it's just like wetter on that part, right? So more would stick to it, or more force was put on that part of the plate as the donut was dabbed into it, right? You just kind of have to think of this stuff, because in the digital world, it's far too easy to make something that looks predictable and boring, and we don't want that. But there we go, something like that. And you could obviously finesse it and make it better than what it is, but that's what we've got. You'll notice each of these spheres have a very jagged looking shape, and that's because the sphere itself down here. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this. If you want to quickly zoom to an object,
Strength is a little too high for my liking. So I want to like think about it, because this, right, is a little like elevated. So if you were to dab it, this and like here would have more than like here, right? I'm gonna adjust the density now, but basically like kind of something like this-ish. Maybe something like that. Right, and then obviously want a lot less.
without having to find it and pan around, number pad period key. Probably should have mentioned that before, but haven't really needed it because we have not worked with that many objects. But that'll focus to that object. If you're on a laptop, by the way, if you hold down the tilde key,
See, this is cool. This is what I wanted to see, because there's basically Something like this. Yeah, to focus something. So it's, oh,
Bring 4 and it and pan around. Number pad period key. Probably should have made
number pad. See, but that doesn't do anything for me. It just kind of expands everything.
mentioned that before. But haven't really needed it because we have not worked with that many objects. But that'll focus to that object. If you're on a laptop, by the way, if you hold down the tilde key, that'll bring up this section here, and then you've got view selected right.
Wait, so then wouldn't it be if you hold down tilde and you view selected? G. Wait, maybe it's okay. So I have to be in object mode. That was my bad. I was trying to select it while I was in wait mode. So I kind of want to move this sprinkle somewhere else. There. So then if we did do this, okay, that's cool.
Right there. So tilde is that key underneath your escape key. But anyways, so this is what our sphere looks like. So right click, shade smooth, and now all those sprinkles have a shade smooth. Haha, very nice. All right, now let me just show you a quick little issue that you might run into. If you were to duplicate your donut and create 2, and then on the second donut, you're like, hey, I want to have some spice in my scene. I don't want to have the exact same count of sprinkles across both donuts. Let's give a different value to this one over here. Well, you can see that they are now sharing the same value because this node group here is being linked across both objects. But if you wanted, I mean, you could make it its own single object so that they're not linked. But if you wanted everything else to remain the same, so that let's say you change the sprinkle at some point, that's preserved across it. But that one value you want to be different across multiple objects, you can expose it. So just like what I did at the start, if I drag out from the value I want to expose, and then I put it up to here in my group input, the empty slot, if I just release it, it's now disappeared, the value's disappeared from here, and it's now appeared in my modifier stack over here. And per object, and it has a 2 birds, 1 stone kind of effect that it makes it more accessible. So in a completely different part of Blender, I'm working on my scene and I'm just very quickly giving different sprinkle amounts to different donuts, right? Like a madman, right? No one can stop me. But yeah, very cool. And that's now exposed. Oh, the other thing we probably want to do though, with that this group input here, is I want to give it a different name because density max, not really that useful. I can call it sprinkle density, right? So now it's
How do you do that?
like a input here, is I want to exposed. Oh, the other thing we probably want to do though, with that this group input here, is I want to exposed. Oh, the other thing we probably want to do though, with that this group input here, is I want to give it a different name because density max, not really that useful. I can call it sprinkle density, right? So now it's like a fully customized little node group that I could drop on any object. I could be building a car in the future and I'm like, it needs sprinkles. And I can just drop this on it and I've got a sprinkle density value for my car, right? So you can see how geometry nodes, you can build something really customized for what you want, and then it's just readily accessible every time you need to use it. Awesome. Now, one issue that I will show you with this, and actually it's not specific to geometry nodes, but this entire time for all these videos, we've been building a donut which is too big. So if you hit N in your properties, oh, that's the polygon thing, you can see the size, the dimensions of your donut is 1.2 by 1.2 meters, which for Americans, oh, actually, yeah, you can change it. You could change your units to the wacky imperial one. Yeah, 4 feet, right? Okay. Which is way too big. Okay. Now, why does it matter, right? Because, like, okay, if you're looking at this, how are you to actually know that this is 1.2 meters rather than the regular size donut? It doesn't actually matter yet, but when we get to like rendering with depth of field, or maybe you want to import other objects from other scenes, having a value that is actually true to the object will save you so much time, and it'll also make it so that your camera settings, etc., are actually correct. So that bit is very important. So essentially, we should resize this. And really, a real donut is about 12 centimeters, which is exactly 1/10 of what we've got right here. So if we select everything in the entire scene, which you can do by just hitting A for everything, I don't know, A for all, yeah, that makes more sense, okay. Then if we hit S to scale, okay, we're now in a scale.
Oh, wait. What happened? I should be able to see exclude from view layer. No. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what I did. I will install that later.
To the plane and the sphere, then S, and then I want to scale it by exactly 10%. Now, how could I do that? Well, if you look in the top left-hand corner, you've got the values there. And if I went to 0.1, then it would be exactly 1/10 of what it was. But how can I get it exactly at 0.1? Well, 2 things. One, if you hold down Control, when you're moving any value in Blender, it'll move it in increments, which in this case is 0.1. But you can also actually just type in the exact value you want, 0.1, and hit Enter. And now, if we look at the size of our donut, click N, hit N, you can see it's 0.12 meters.
Okay, so I noticed that my donut is actually 2.933. So let's make this like, let's just make it 3 and 3, right? But this should go to 0.123, which would mean it is 24 times smaller. So that would be 0.04. I hope my math is correct now. So let's see. So we'll do this. Then he said we can just type. There we go. Yeah, okay. This one is very tiny.
Centimeters, yeah. Anyway, and that's great. But there is a problem. What you might notice, I mean, there's not a problem now, But when you change the scale or the rotation of an object, actually, it's only changed its what do you call it? Its local scale. It hasn't actually applied it on a global level yet. So the sprinkle here and the donut have actually got a like pretend value. The scale is set at 0.2, and it's almost like it's saying to the scene, that's not its real scale. It's just been faked to be that size yet. It needs to be applied if you want to like confirm really that this is the true scale or rotation of the thing. And you do that by selecting the things and then hitting Control A and then applying scale. Okay, so now we've done that, we can see something's changed. So our donut here with the sprinkles has now massively changed its density count. And the reason for this is that if we go geometry nodes again, let's zoom in here. Let's look at it with this. This density, this sprinkle density, is actually not the count of sprinkles at all. It's the density in relation to the whole scene. And the way I think of it is like, okay, it's a weird visualization, but if you've got a car and it's driving along a highway, right, a certain amount of bugs are going to hit the windshield, okay? And the bugs could be defined by here. But the smaller the object is, right, you could have the same amount of bugs going across the highway. But if it was like a tiny Matchbox car, there's going to be very few bugs that's going to hit it, okay? So the density is kind of like the density of the world. And now that we've made the object smaller, there's only 3 sprinkles left. There's only 3 bugs that's hit the windshield of our donut here. So this value now needs to be much bigger. In fact, it needs to be exactly like if it was 6,000 before, it needs to be
24.
Yeah, 60,000 now. But the problem is that it's not just a value here. The distance min value has also changed because this is also based on a real world value. So this now needs to be really small. So let's try 0.01.
Okay, so mine needs to be 24 times larger. Let's say it's 500 times 24. It should be like 12,000. No, like even. Oh, wait, yeah, okay. Let's do 60 and then we'll see. There we go. Hmm. Just want to see. Like, yeah, I like this more. Are they like flipping? Not really. Yeah, so this is okay, I think.
And that's actually pretty good, I think. There's a little bit of overlap, but that's roughly kind of what we want. And let's see if I can increase this. Yeah, so if I want this density to be really dense, yeah, I would have to increase it to a crazy number. Now, something I like to do personally, this isn't, you have to do this, but you notice how like this number is really large. And if I want to increase or lower my sprinkle value, and I'm in a different part of Blender, if I'm just dragging this value, it's having no effect because the range, like the scale of it is just so large. So what I actually do is I set it to a value that I think makes sense, which in this case is 200. And then whatever the value was before, it was 200,000, right? I do a math value inside of my geometry node setup. Between here and here, I do a math calculation to multiply that by the value that it needs to be, almost as like a scale adjustment. So you can do it with just one node, Shift A, Utilities, Math, and just drop it in here. Now the math, I said I want to multiply it, so I need to change it from add to a multiply. And math is the most versatile of any node. You can do all sorts of stuff, but multiply. So multiply, and it was 200,000 before. So if I want this value 200, then I just add 1,000. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So now I can very quickly change the scale of the sprinkles across the donut without having to like manually type in the value. I can just move it back and forth. And there you go. So that's it. So we've changed the scale of it to what it should be. We've got a correct density. Sorry, we've got a correct sprinkle setup, looking good. In the next part, we are going to be adding long sprinkles to our donuts because this round one is okay. And I originally was just going to go round to try and keep it simple, but there's also, I don't know, the long sprinkles just look way nicer. But you do have to do some different rotation math and stuff. So we're going to do that in a whole second video. So click here on the screen to learn all about that and random colors. So I will see you in that.
Okay.
We've got round sprinkles. Why not long sprinkles? It'll be more interesting and it'll enable us to learn some new techniques about Blender, which is what this whole series is about. So first things first, we need to model those sprinkles. So let's move to the left here, and we want to add an object. We haven't mentioned it before, but when you add an object, it's going to put it at your 3D cursor, and your 3D cursor is that thing, that weird little thing, little crosshair at the bottom there. That's your 3D cursor. And yeah, I don't know, Blender has a 3D cursor, maybe other applications don't. It's going to put it there. And if you don't want it there, you can move that 3D cursor somewhere else by hitting Shift and right-clicking, and you can see it's now moved it and actually attached it to the plane, which is where we would want it. If you don't have a mouse, do get a mouse. But in the interim, you can also use the cursor tool, and that'll do the same thing. All right, so we're adding long sprinkles. So obviously the object that we want to add is Shift-A, Mesh. It's the cylinder. Okay. Too big.
Okay, I'm gonna move these down. I might want to scale this more. And then we bring this one down. Like, no. Dude, it's doing this weird thing. Or is it just me? Like, it's actually... If I move it, like, up, it's moving it, like, away. Um... So I'm moving it. I'm moving it this way. So if I move it like here, right, and I move it like up, but if I move it like this, it's not actually moving it up, it's moving it like away. See, it's like... where it feels like wherever I'm moving, it's like it's creating an axis like on my camera. So like if it's like this and I say Z, it's not following the Z like this Z. It's like it's creating a Z on my view. Like, because now where I had it, right, is like here. So it's on this side of the donut. Oh, hey. What do you think of the donut tutorial? I actually really like it. It's really like informative. Um, yeah. I've done it before, so this is like the second time. Um, I really like it. But there is something that I'm struggling. Oh, I think I know it's this. But it's like some technical thing, so but it's nice. I like the donut tutorial. I thought I would do it again before I like start with some more custom things, you know. Okay.
by default. So let's click this little thing, bring this up, change the radius all the way to its lowest and the depth all the way to its lowest as well. And the vertices, that's the like the
Okay, so we want to add a cylinder. Um, yeah, I think for me, the reason why I'm choosing it now is just to sort of learn um, the basics again, because like I haven't done that much in Blender, but just learning sort of the hotkeys and going over the basics again, I think it helps me a little, or I'm hoping it will help me a little bit, um, just to kind of get the feel for the program again, and then yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll see from there. Yeah. Ooh.
resolution, right? Oh, we'll fix that in a sec. Um, the resolution to be way too high at 32 to be scattered on an object. So let's set this to 12, and that'll be just enough that it won't look jagged and it'll look smooth.
Okay, you see now already. Why do you not like the why do you not like him and the tutorial?
Okay, great. Now I'm going to move this up just so it's above the plane, Z. Okay. Now this problem that you have, if you go in too far, it disappears. The reason for that is that Blender has a clipping start value. And because we're working at such a small scale, we've got sprinkle-sized things now, it's too small.
Oh, he acts like an ass behind the camera and the tutorial doesn't help people, gross. Yeah, so I've I've watched some of his videos like when I was younger, like when I was in uni, um, just to kind of like mess around, but it was a lot easier to follow, I think, at the time, than any of the other like uh Blender like tutorial creators out there. Oh, I see. They do everything in Blender, yeah. Yeah, so like I said at the time, or at this time, I feel like I'm only doing it for like the getting around the program again, like the basics and so on. And then I'll basically just like brute force to figure out whatever it is that I'm trying to do or read or whatever.
And it's clipping it out. So if you hit N and go to your View tab, the clip start value there, it's 1 centimeter by default. Drag it all the way to the left, and it's now a millimeter, and it will have fixed that. I don't know why it's not the default. Like maybe somebody can tell me why is that not the default value? Maybe there's a reason.
Oh, um, it's mostly Blender focused instead of it being used as a third-party program for another renderer. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, I think for example, I know the last time I did this, like this, the rendering and stuff, I probably won't go here. Like I won't go further than this because, you know, I'm gonna export everything that I'm doing here to use in like Unreal. So I don't need to know like with rendering and stuff. So um yeah, I think that's kind of where I'll stop with this tutorial, and then I'll try to do some other things like a chair or whatever, you know. Have you seen his like the Polygon, the materials website?
But to me, that would make sense because then you never have this problem. I don't know any disadvantages. So anyway, we've got the base of a sprinkle. Need to make it long, so tab into edit mode, S, scale it Z along the Z axis.
So I've yeah, I've just used it on like this countertop, and in the other render I did with the donuts, I used it in some of like background elements and stuff. It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. The things that are free are like high quality, but obviously there are like a lot of paid stuff, obviously. Um, yeah, but it's cool. It's pretty cool. It works nicely in Blender. Super easy.
Axes to elongate it, and now we've got the rough length of a sprinkle. But how long is a sprinkle? There's no actual answer to that. If you look at reference, they are all over the place. The government evidently never stepped in and said, like, we're going to regulate it. This is the length of a sprinkle. This is the size of a sprinkle. I mean, it's the Wild West out there. They're doing crazy things. So what that means as artists is we get to pick whatever is most visually pleasing. And I like the ones which are more readable. And to show you what I mean, if we pull up two, right? This one on the left is like large sprinkles, right? Very like bold. And then one on the right here is like long, thin, wispy ones that look like they get stuck in your teeth. And if we zoom out on this and then zoom out on this, you can see that the ones on the right tend to kind of like the colors and everything just kind of blur together and it just looks like a donut. Whereas the one on the left, the sprinkles are still readable. So that's what we mean by readable, and that's the one I like the most. So we're going to go with some larger looking long sprinkles, but you can see that the sizes, there's no standard size because I think it's actually like it's from a piping bag, at least if you make them at home, but you can just pipe out icing and then when it dries, you just smash it
Yeah,
up.
the
And it becomes
donuts. The
sprinkles.
donuts do look pretty good.
But yeah, they just come out at any odd size. So we got long ones, we got medium ones, we got short ones, and we've even got some curvy looking ones, right? These little like just slightly bent-ish looking ones. So we're going to model small, medium, large, and a bent-ish looking one, and then we're going to scatter
Yeah,
that
get
across
something
the
to eat.
object. So back in Blender, this is going to be, yeah, this will be the short one, okay? But the end, speaking of which, this end bit here, it's a very sharp edge. And even if we hit shade smooth, it's not going to solve it. We want that like a rounded form to it, not this horrible blobby looking shape. Because the reference, again, you can see, oh, it's a different reference now, is a rounded shape, all right? So to create that rounded form, we're going to create a bevel. And so I want you to go into face select mode, okay, which you can do by that. So this is the faces, right? This is the edges, if you go to edge select mode, and then this is the face there. So select the bottom and the top face, like that. And then we're going to add a bevel, which will immediately become clear when you do it, Control B. And now that we're in this state, as we pull out, we can change the amount of the bevel.
Interesting.
And this is, you can see it's like, yeah, it's just adding a 45-degree angle on that corner there. But if you scroll up, it's going to add another level to it. And if you scroll up again, it's going to add another level to that. So we can very quickly create a rounded edge to the sprinkle. You don't want to go too much high because, again, this is going to be scattered all over the donut. You don't want to go too high poly. So that'll do. So that's a simple bevel operation, and it's very common when you're modeling. So yeah, Control B is how you do that. All right, so look at that. We've got one sprinkle. So now we will need to create 3 more. So this is the small. So let's go Shift D. And
I'm guessing he's also doing shade smooth. Yeah. I feel like it's not rounded enough though. Or actually, nah, it's fine.
and then X to just move it along the X axis. This is going to be the
So we're doing Control D. No.
medium one, D, and then X.
Shift D.
To just move it along the X axis. This is going to be the medium one. So edit mode, and I'm going to go into toggle wireframe and vertice select mode. And now selecting the top part of the sprinkle, hit G, Z, and I'm going to move, oops, if you've got proportional.
Okay, so we're just going to move them. We'll do that. Select that. The singular. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know he says vertices for singular as well, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait, I need to. This is the X-ray one, yeah. So I want to do this and this. There we go.
Editing, turn that off. G, Z, move that up. Okay, that'll be the medium one. Yep. And now Shift D, X, move it along. This is going to be the long one. So edit mode, and again, G, Z, move it up. And this is going to be.
Do you use like a different
I don't go too long. Maybe that long. Okay.
Program? Like other than Blender, do you use something else?
A bent sprinkle. It's slightly like curved. So Shift D, X, move it across. And now with this one, if I was to try to like curve this out, there's not enough information here. Like if I move that, it's just a straight edge there. So if I want to make it curved, I got to have more geometry there. So like we've done in the past, Control R
I see.
is how you create a loop cut. So when you do
Wings
that, it says
3D.
where do you want to.
I'm actually not entirely sure what that is. Let's see. Wings 3D. Subdivision modeler inspired by Nendo. Oh, I see. I'll read on it as well. I like whenever you kind of get into a space, there are so many like different things, and it's pretty cool like learning all the new things and things that people like or don't like and so on. Like people of that like industry, you know.
Put it. I want more curved, I got to have more geometry there. So like we've done in the past, Control R is
FBX. Oh, what does FBX stand for?
how you create a loop cut. So when you do that, it says where do you want to put it.
Oh, I see.
I want more than one though, so I'm going to
Box.
scroll up till I get, yeah, just a bunch of loops until I get what looks like square faces on those points, somewhere around that. I don't want to go too high poly. Yeah, like that. What is that? That's in the bottom left-hand corner.
What, but what does it mean,
eight
like
cuts.
technically?
Okay.
What do you do with
Click,
it, or
and then it's saying where do you want to place it. Right-click to cancel the movement, so it places it right in
or
the
what
center.
is it used
And
for or
now,
important for?
yep, there we go. Okay, now we've got this one over here that is just long and straight but low poly, and this one same shape but high poly. So to add a bend to it, in previous tutorials, I actually went into like edit mode and we did like proportional editing, and it was just complicated and it actually didn't look great. I've learned actually there's a modifier that'll do it very simply. Go to your modifier stack, add modifier. You could find it inside here, or you could search for it, but it's the simple deform modifier. So add that, and by default it is wrong. So change it from twist to bend, and look at that. We've got our sprinkle. And you can very easily, whoops, change the amount from a little curve to a large curve. And I think somewhere.
See, I feel like mine doesn't work like that. Simple deform. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, so this will be the first time that I like create something in Blender or not now, but whenever like and export it into Unreal. It'll be the first time I do that. So.
Around the 30-degree mark. So change it from twist modifier. So go to poly. So to add a bend to it, in previous tutorials, I actually went into like edit mode and we did like proportional editing, and it was just complicated. complicated and it actually didn't look great. I've learned actually there's a modifier that'll do it very simply. And it actually
See, I
didn't
feel
look
like I
great.
messed something up
I've
there.
learned actually. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now we've got this one over here that is just long and straight but low poly, and this one same shape.
Or actually, I don't feel like I know something is like weird. Um, because if we do this, it's like hmm. No.
But high poly. So to add a bend to it, in previous tutorials, I actually went into like edit mode and we did like proportional editing, and it was just complicated and it actually didn't look great. I've learned actually there's a modifier that'll do it very simply. Go to your modifier stack, add modifier. You could find it inside here, or you could search for it, but it's the simple deform modifier. So add that, and by default it is wrong, so change it from twist to bend. And look at that, we've got our sprinkle. Ha! And you can very easily, whoops, change the amount from a little curve to a large curve. And I think somewhere around the 30-degree mark. You will notice though that it's like it's bent more at this angle, and that's because it's bending it according to the origin point. So you see these little dots? You might have wondered what they are in Blender. That's called your origin point, and it's used for a lot of things. Like if you rotate an object, you can see it's rotating from the point of that origin point. Like physics, a bunch of things use the origin point. The best way to think of it is like the center of mass for the object. So generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, you want it to be in the center of the object. And you can do it very quickly. You select multiple objects. You want to clear its origin point. Shift, select all of them, and then right click, and then say set origin, origin to geometry. And now you can see it's put it in the middle. And now our curve is actually based on the starting in the middle, which is what we want. So yay for us. Now,
I feel like something's weird here. So I'm just gonna remove it and we'll do it again. Oh, okay, yeah. So I need to make sure to set it. Otherwise I'll have issues. Because I did notice like or it was kind of strange, I guess it makes sense on where that point was, but there was this door that I imported once, and it was like it makes sense that it's in the corner, right? But it was kind of odd because you would think that it's in the middle, but then obviously like it was like down in the left-hand corner, so it was just a little strange like at first. So I'm guessing that's where they set the point. We'll do Control R. Like that. And then let's try this one more time. Nope. Let's see something. Sprinkle. Oh, the guy said you need to apply the scale to it. But that's what I saw in the... was it? Uh, Point is where it will center the assets to. So if you have a circle of assets that aren't merged, want to set the origin point. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Um, I want to see how to... I forgot. Control A. So it's, I think for all of these, apply scale. Then here we add deform. There we go. Okay. That was a relatively easy fix.
I need to apply this or else the next part it'll go wonky. So apply your simple deform so that it's actually, realized onto the mesh. Okay, so going to your outliner, you can see we started from humble beginnings, but we've now got too much going on, and it's all starting to get a little bit chaotic. So the way you organize things in your outliner and in Blender generally is you can group things together by creating collections. So by default, we've actually got one collection already, just called collection, but we can create new collections by this little button in the top right-hand corner to create a new collection. And I want to create it outside of our... I mean, I don't actually know if we need, like, I don't know why it creates a collection for you. For no, I mean, you could just, it's in the scene collection. So anyways, I don't know if we actually need that one. So we create a new collection just by hitting that, and we can double click it to rename it to be whatever it is we want. So I'm going to call this sprinkles, okay? And because we have two types of sprinkles, we have the sphere round sprinkle, and then we have these long sprinkles, I'm going to create two other collections within this collection. So hitting new again, you can see
have
it's
you
placed
like
underneath it. And I'm going to
done a lot of work in like
round,
Blender and Wings?
And then clicking sprinkles again, I'll add another collection.
Or have you been in this,
this
like
one I will
space
call
long?
Long. Oh, wait, sorry. This one. Long. There we go. Okay, so to move something to a collection, you can do it one of two ways. One, you can select the sphere, which is the round. Remember, it's this little guy over here, the little tiny round sprinkle. You can just drag that into the that collection, and you can see it's now moved it there. The other way is in your 3D viewport. If you select all of the objects that you want to move to a new collection, hit M, and it brings up this, and you just say move to the sprinkles long sub collection.
Wow, that's a long
and
time.
now they're all moved there. And now this one here, if you
a decade, holy shit. Have you done like well, obviously you've done a lot in it. Do you like use it for like work, or is it just in your free time, or?
Wanted to give this a name, you could. We got the camera, we got the light, we got the plane. Yeah, you know what? Let's move our donut and our icing. All right, so it's also good that we created collections because we can now use that to scatter
what game are you
across the
working on?
geometry nodes. So with our donut here, so the icing and the donut, we're going to create a duplicate, and this is going to be the variant with the long sprinkles. So Shift D, and then hit X to move it along the X axis. So it's just placed next to it, and then
Shift D.
and clicking your icing, you can see we've got the modifier stack that we created the geometry nodes on. And if we were to start tweaking this and make this look like long sprinkles, it would apply to this one over here because we can see that little number next to it.
Sci-fi game in Unreal. Story-based third person. That's pretty cool. I was planning on working on like a a first person horror game. And I did like mess around a little bit with like just building like a room and stuff. Um, but then I decided like if I was gonna do a lot of work, maybe I just start with the bigger project that I wanted to do, because originally I wanted to do the other one first, and then maybe the next one would be like easier. Yeah. So I feel like I kind of jumped into like the deep end here, but yeah, honestly, I it's fine. I feel like you learn a lot with like just doing things, right?
And that number, if you hover over it, I think we mentioned it before, but displays the number of users sharing this data. So any change you make to this is going to be reflected on that one. So if we click the 2 button, it's now independent. So we'll now have 2 different versions. So the one on the left, the original one, let's call that round sprinkles. And the one on the right, let's call that one long. Brain fart for a second there. Long sprinkles. Okay. And now with that object selected, let's go back to the Geometry Nodes tab. Okay. All right, so make sure you're looking at the right object. Make sure it's the one with long sprinkles in the name. And if we were to start editing here, we would have made one big mistake, and it's because this is actually not the long sprinkles node setup. We clicked the pin button. Remember that? The pin means it's always going to be there, even if it's another object with a different geometry node setup. So remember, yeah, it's a common mistake.
Yeah, you won't typically use this model in the game itself. Even with Nanite, you'd want to do a normal bag for donut. So do you mean like if I want to export like this donut into Unreal, I would, or what do you mean? Okay. Well, you can import vertex color, you can import parameters. I see. Yeah, so I planned on making something like, for instance, a chair, like in the next one. And then I'll start working through the Unreal docs, because I did see in one of the first like sections it's talking about importing things from other software, and then just kind of going through the process of importing and seeing how it works and so on.
Mistake. You always do it. You forget you've got pin on, and then you start changing things, and it does the wrong one. So make sure you're looking at the one that has long sprinkles in the name. Okay. So the bit that obviously matters the most is this bit where it goes into our instance on points node, and we've currently got it connected to a sphere. So I mean, you could change that to another object, but that won't help us because we've got more than one object. We want to scatter 4 different objects across it. So we can delete that and instead just drag from your outliner. Don't just, if you click on
Substance painter, armor paint. Uh, okay, texture 3D models. Oh, I see. Okay, and then basically, so basically I would create the objects in Blender, take them there to paint. I'll take the meshes over there and then I'll paint onto it. This is cool. Okay, it's in there, so these are some nice things. Okay. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Export, you can import from there. Okay. Okay. I'll keep this in mind. Yeah, I saw that they have a lot of things that looked similar to like things in Blender. But then it looked a little bit bad, or not bad, but like not as detailed.
On it. Oh yeah, yeah. If you click off it, it's just going to disappear. So make sure you don't do it. You've clicked the icing, but you need to click and drag into your node setup. And now it's got a collection info node.
All right. So it's bent, long, medium, and short. These should all go into long. And then drag here and there.
Rather than object info node. Drag that into your instance input, and nothing happened. It has actually
See?
happened, but
It would take you for yeah. Yeah, I'll see. Like I remember baking things, but again, this is like probably like 8 years ago. Um, Texturing I haven't done yet. Baking also. Um, yeah, not recently. Yeah, so I'll look into those things after the donut. Maybe, yeah, yeah, and then obviously how to move it into Unreal. These guys, yo. Yeah, but I had one yesterday as well. I think it just came on very briefly, and then like I was just like, okay, sure it. Okay, let's see.
it's off
Maybe
center in a
let me
weird
finish this
place. Why is
donut,
it doing that?
and then I'll look into the baking.
It's because of the way 3D software handles data. It's now doing it on its like global or local position, not relative to. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What you need to do
Oh, there it
is
is.
check 3 boxes whenever you use collections to scatter. Separate, reset children. Now it's on the mesh correctly, and then it's
And then it's like
you can see it's actually using all 4 of
little
them on
candles.
each point.
Interesting.
So then you click pick instance, and now it's going to use one of those, not all 4 of them together. Okay, so it's good. It's using it, but what's going on? Well, the reason this one was easier with its round sprinkles is that the rotation of the objects didn't matter because it was round. Now that we have long sprinkles, you can see the rotation matters, and it's currently screwed up. So how do we fix that? The first way, well, yeah, there's a number of things you need to do to make it work correctly. You'll see, is we want to take the rotation of the face. So the face of these mesh here, we want it to affect the objects, right? So we take the output of our distribute points on faces, the rotation of that, and drag it into the rotation input of the instances. And now you can see it's having some effect. It's still not right, but that is because these sprinkles are currently just pointed upwards. So it thinks, okay, well, you want to point them all outwards. Anyways, to fix that, I mean, you could fix it you could actually fix it in geometry nodes.
Are you like, where in your development would you say you are, like, in your game? Is it like Substance Painter? This is so basic. I love it. Okay. So I bake the normal maps with this. Okay. Dude, but honestly, I don't know. I think it's got I like it. I like it. They were cooking.
This is simpler. So if we just rotate those sprinkles along the x-axis, so R, X, right? And then we just want to lie them down flat. So essentially 90.
So turn them flat.
Degrees. You could type in 90 degrees, or holding down Control will move it in 5-degree increments. Okay, so 90 and then do a single click. Okay, so why has that not worked? Well, it's because, as I mentioned before, when you're scaling or rotating things, it's not actually saved to the object. So to apply it, you have to go Control A and then say rotation. Now that we've done that, it's
so these Control A, save rotation. So is the industry standard now Marmoset, or is it like Substance Painter? I see. Yeah, like there are so many things like that you need to learn, right? And Painter, Substance Painter, let me check. Is it Adobe? Adobe. Interesting. That's a lot for a month. But I guess, you know, if you're like a studio and you use it like every day, I guess that's different, right? Oh, yeah. So I think, yeah, it's like JetBrains did this too. Like I had that IntelliJ. I think, yeah, it was I forgot the name now. Storm, WebStorm or whatever. And then when I cancelled, I still got the version that was released at the time for forever. Oh, you have the old 2020 version. Is it like still good, or is it maybe a little dated?
It's worked correctly. All right. So now you can see what I said by you need to do a lot to make it work correctly. The
And yours
rotation
is
is
great
working,
too,
but it's not doing what you would expect. And
the
that's
version
because
you have.
geometry nodes are so flexible, you have to tell it exactly what you want to do. We want actually random rotation. So around each of the points, we don't want to each have the exact same rotation. We need to randomize it. So for that, if you want to tweak the rotation on anything between this point here, on this dotted blue
Oh, I
line,
see.
let's just move that out of the way. We need to add Shift A, Utilities, Rotation, Rotate, not Euler, Euler. Yes, I know. They went with the weird pronunciation. I think it was a Frenchman, right? Could be German. Doesn't.
Let's see.
Between this point here, on this dotted blue line, let's just move that out of the way.
Oh, I thought I saw something with Steam. It was Substance Painter. Yeah, here. $200. That's yeah, that's nice. But it's got a 6 out of 10. Yeah, it's it's quite expensive. But I mean, apply textures, materials. So I guess so basically ArmorPaint and xNormal or Substance Painter is like those two combined. I see. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Let's
We
see
need
if
to
we can
add Shift A,
oh, okay. So xNormal is just still better in terms of baking.
Utilities,
Shift A, utilities, rotation.
Rotation, Rotate, not Euler.
See, I think. Oh, this is deprecated. Hmm. Yeah, I guess for me it wouldn't really matter because I have no like previous experience with it.
Euler. Yes, I know. They went same, right? Just to annoy all the Europeans. Anyways, rotate Euler, and we're just going to drop it on that line till it lines up. Okay, so nothing's happened currently, but with this, we could change the rotation of our sprinkles up here. But you'll notice that as you rotate it, it's kind of weird. It's not the rotation that you would expect for each point. It's the relative to the actual object as a whole, right? Which just means we need to change from object to local. And now, as you move it around, you can see we're able to rotate those sprinkles. But again, it's not changing the like randomizing it. It's giving a solid value. So to randomize it, if we drag out of the rotate by input and then type in random, it'll bring up this, and we're looking for random value. Click, and now we get this. Ooh. So this node looks kind of scary, right? It's got a whole bunch of different values in it, and it says vector, and it's very, very foreign. It's actually easier to understand it from a float point of view. With the random value, if it's in a float state, it's going to generate a value from 0 to 1 on each point. So if you've got like 10 points, one of them is going to be like 0.015, one of them is going to be like 0.92, and one's, whatever. When it's in vector state, it's the exact same thing. You've got min and you've got max, but there are 3 values. And the reason for that is that there are 3 axes. There's the x-axis, there's the y-axis, and there's the z-axis.
The first fiction for ArmorPaint Terra 2024 on Steam is most likely a super drone that's going to be in Gears of War eBay. Let's see. This maybe? This one? Oh. Oh, I see here. That's a lot of things. I feel like the reviews are not that great. Ten out of 10 software, 0 out of 10 Adobe company. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything. Do you hate Adobe?
And same here, right? So you're able to define what type of rotation on each axis. So if we set both, and by the way, if you want to change multiple values at once in Blender, you can just click and drag down, and then you can change all of them. So we set all of them to 0. And now you could see this bottom one is going to be the Z, because it's X, Y, Z. It doesn't tell you, like, I don't know, because it's vector math, I guess there's other areas of Blender, anyway. But this is the Z axis. If we increase,
I think the only thing that I've ever used from them is like their PDF reader and signer.
this one, you can see that's the main one that we want to change, right? Because that's the one that makes the most difference. Now you might also know, looking at this, you're probably thinking like, okay, well we need to rotate it by 360 degrees, so we would set this to 360. But you can see they're more than rotating fully already. So what value is this exactly? This is radians.
Yeah, so I've worked with it before. I can't remember. I think, wait, let me check. Do I have it installed? Let me just see. No, I don't. I had it installed on a previous computer. See, I used Inkscape. Yeah, go eat, go eat. Thanks for the follow as well. Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna try and finish this donut.
Oh, just to get real. So, radians, degrees. Actually, like I had to ask ChatGPT before I recorded this. What's the difference? Radians are more mathematical and easier for mathematical equations. It's the circumference of pi. No, 2 pi is the circumference. Look, obviously I don't know, but what I'm trying to tell you is, you just need double pi to to make it 360 degrees, which is actually tau. To make it really complicated, it's tau. So double pi. So pi is 3.142. Tau is double that. And anyways, you get the idea. So you can type in tau and it'll actually give
Yeah,
you the
we'll see
correct
how
value.
it looks.
So that's
I can't promise
360 degree
anything.
rotation. We also want it, because you can see this is the other axes, like the middle one spinning around. So we also want it on that one, because we've got a curved one. So let's make that tau. And then this top one is the X, which is actually going to make it like wonky like. So these will be like seesawing up. So if you increase that, that's where it gets crazy, and you don't really want to use that. You do want a little bit though, because it would make sense if they're sprinkles. They're not going to be completely flat. You're going to have some variance where like some bit has absorbed into the icing at a different angle than another, but just not too much essentially, or else it starts to look like little marshmallows or whatever all over it. But guys, that's roughly it. That's the hard work. That was, I mean, I know that was very technical, but it was just 2 nodes. Rotate Euler, set it to local, and then this random value, and we're changing that to rotate it. And we did it. We got nice looking rotation. Now, one thing we do have to change is the distance min. So because these longer sprinkles obviously are bigger, then the distance min has to change as well. So we can change that to something that makes sense. Let's go 0.04. That might have actually been pretty perfect. Let's try 3. 3's got a little bit. Oh, actually, you know what? The other thing, again, looking at reference, I like those big, chunky looking sprinkles. So I want these to be bigger. So we could, alter the scale of the actual sprinkles, but we're working with geometry nodes, and we've actually got a scale value right here. So we could change it here just as easily. So the scale, dragging down, and again, there's not just one value, there's 3 axes, so X, Y, Z, so drag down on all. 1.5 is going to give us some nice, big, chunky looking sprinkles. And now this distance value needs to be a lot bigger. So let's go 0.06. That's actually pretty good. I'm getting pretty good at nailing it. 0.0, no, I was right before. There's always going to be some overlap, right? You're not going to be able to stop it because it's not doing object like collisions. It's nothing like that. It's a very simple, again, it's doing a point and then it's creating a radius around it. And if you do the correct amount, which for this is probably something like this, then it looks way too predictable and boring, which we don't want. So 0.006 looks pretty good for me with a scale of 1.5 for these. And that is it. I was going to put in the random color in this part of the tutorial, but I think we've gone over already.
Dude, I'm kind of hoping that this guy lives so I can move to the other one, and then when he comes back, we'll see what he says. So these are my other donuts. Like, Okay. Was render F12? Yeah. Oh, you can't see the render. So I close there. Um, okay, while we wait, I think let's start looking for some chair references. Okay, obviously we're not gonna find anything like that. Oh, actually, I like something like this. I'm thinking just like a normal wooden chair. I like the base. I don't like the back of this chair. So maybe we can like, I guess we just look at kind of the shape of it right now. No, not this. I think I like this. And then I'll just give it a different back, like maybe something like this. Okay. So I do want to add like these little details as well, like the screws or the nails, screws. So I think as someone who's not done something like this before, maybe the way I want to approach this is to do like the bar, like each one of these as its individual components, and then like just kind of put the chair together. I feel like it's going to be very inefficient. Yeah, I think I like this one the most, and it seems relatively simple. Even the back, actually, because it'll just be like these things that you put in, right? Um, so bake texture. Let's actually just read up on what the fuck does baking mean. Baking is the name of the process about saving information related to 3D mesh into a texture file, a bitmap. Most of the time, this process involves another mesh. Mm. But we don't want to do like with lights, so basically, a blender. Mesh.
Hello, today we're going to be doing a quick texture bake in both Blender and xNormals. Starting off here, I have a copy of Ellie's backpack from The Last of Us. We can see that the high poly has just over 3000 faces and the low poly has just over 700. We have our UVs set up for both backpacks. Now, start off by having both meshes overlap each other, and then we can assign a new material to our low poly. I'll call mine Bake. Next, we'll need to set our base color to an image texture, and then create a
Wait, so he put...
just over 3000 faces and the low poly has just over 700. We have our UVs set up for both backpacks. Now, start off by having both meshes overlap each other, and then we can assign a new material to our low poly.
Oh, and I remember now. Yeah. So you would take... I remember now what this means. It's like you take the... like a very detailed mesh, texture it, whatever, paint it, etc., and then you would move a low poly count mesh basically over it with much less like yeah, like they said, poly count, and I think that means like just literal like triangles and shapes. And then so it's kind of low quality, but then you have your high quality uh mesh, and then you would put it on top, and it would actually put the textures and the detail from the high uh, res or high poly count object onto the lower one, which is then, yeah, like, okay, that's pretty cool. Welcome back, man. I finished my donuts. Hell yeah. So what do you think of my donuts? Do they look good? Yeah, I'm just kidding, by the way. I actually went to my previous one. So I think I basically stopped like here. You see a mistake here. What do you see? Let's go back here. This icing, I think we um I think it has modifiers if I remember correctly. Uh, but there was sculpting as well on it. I think, if I remember correctly. Is it this? Like it looks like kind of bubbly? Like I remember. So the way I did it now was with, it was weighted, and then I think you use the inflate. Yeah, I think it was the inflate, and then you can like paint over it. It'll like, oh no, that was these. Yeah, this was a modifier, I'm pretty sure, around the edges. Because I did just kind of inflate it at first, and then he said like on the video that's what he used to do, but there's uh, like a modifier to do this. I don't know if this is even what you it's like are referring to, but these do look a little like bumpy to me. I don't know if it's that. The normals are deformed. So like, let's see. Um, this looks a little like it's kind of smudging into the donut instead of like this. It looks too fat, like on the edges. It's like raised, and whereas on the reference, it looks like it's kind of flat going into the donut. I don't know. Um, no, these are all in Blender Guru donuts. um, like this. I see. So what does that actually mean? Like the normals are deformed. Okay. Okay. I see. So basically, you're saying that the light, oh, so the light is like wrong here. The incident light is the origin of the light source. Okay. Do you mean like this? Like this, there's like a corner here. Ah, I see, I see, I see. Okay. Yeah, see, that's not even something that I like. That's not even something that I picked up, I'll be honest. Like, oh, wait, yeah, you can see it very clearly now, like from here. There. Interesting. Okay. So how would you actually fix that? Is that something in Blender or should it just be smoothed out more? Okay. So then if you would like export this, you would bake it in xNormal and then it would fix this. Okay. Want to model that or change the normal map data? Okay. So I'd smooth this out, or with baking just fix this. Um, okay. Yeah, okay. It's not connected. You're saying it's not connected? I think it, hold on. It should be kind of. It is touching, if that's what you mean. Oh, I see, like this, right? Yeah, you mean it'll kind of just smear, like the reference. It'll just smear until it looks like it's kind of, yeah. I see. So I guess sculpting. Okay, let's see. It is a separate mesh from the donut. Let's see what happens if we just scale. Ooh, I don't think we want to do that. But I do think there was a like a thick what do you call it? Wait, let me check. It's called this is a good question. Or maybe it was a solidifier. Yeah, solidifier. And then it was doing this like, so maybe I just made it too thick when I solidified it, that is. Okay. Oh, I see, like all of these, it's doing like weird. Also select the icing only and then tuck the icing in. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna try that, like, is it focus mode like this? But I feel like, nah, I should I need the donut, right? So what if we do this? Hmm. Yeah, okay. Inside face, you mean like these inside? Is it gonna be flattened? No? I see. Yeah, I think like I was looking up things when you were gone. Um and I'm thinking I want to start with a chair since it's like basically just like a square, right? Or a bunch of rectangles. So um maybe I'll start with something like this and then yeah, just kind of go from there. Mm. Oh yeah, I can start with a door too. That would be pretty cool. Let's find a door because that's even more of of a of a rectangle. Uh, Something like this. It's a great memory exercise because you can also student to model it again without your help. See how many tools they've retained in memory and then focus on the tools they struggle with the most. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll start with this and we'll see how it goes. It'll probably be a struggle at first, but you know, obviously as we go, it'll become easier. Uh, where was this one now? Yeah, I like this one. Yeah, this would be cool. I think I'll start with this one on the next stream, and then yeah, just kind of see how it goes. And then after the door, maybe the chair and so on. There are a lot of things I'll struggle through for the first time, and then I guess hopefully it'll be easier as time goes. And then yeah, I guess I'll do some research into this ArmorPaint and see how we can use it or how it's used, and then also the xNormal. This website's amazing. Yeah, I think I'll definitely give it a try and see how it goes. Um, I was watching this for this specifically. For sorry, for xNormal and Blender. Um, yeah, so I think we're done with the donut for now. We did not end here. We ended here. 3D code texture. Yeah, I think I'll give the ArmorPaint and xNormal a try. And then obviously the door will be the first task, the first real task. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this stream. In the next one, I'll do the door, or try to do the door, and then also explore like the armor painter and xNormal. Um, yeah, I think that'll be very interesting to see the struggle. So yeah, thank you for dropping by. I'll be here tomorrow same time, and yeah, if you have a Discord, you're welcome to drop by our Discord. It's in our Twitch. It's in the Twitch like channel. And yeah, thank you for watching. And yeah, see you again hopefully tomorrow. Right, thank you. Goodbye.